wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builders Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts or call them at 466-4938.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Talk That Get Results. I'm Webbo Herbert, and as per usual, we're here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category and like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line, address it to a Let's Talk program in care of Vaughan Radio, PO Box 195, Charlestown, Nevis. So give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. When you get call the numbers 1-869-469-1616 and 1700. When you're getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then you respect others, because we will not accept anything that we deem is not within our broadcast standards. But we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. This is your voice in the community, Talk That Get Results. And you can also follow our live video stream of this program on our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio and a YouTube channel, Vaughan Radio. Click subscribe. This evening we've got two segments of the program. The first segment, we'll be looking at some health matters with the health promotion team in the Nevis Island Administration. Chevron and Nisbet, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Herbert, and good evening to the viewing and listening audience.
And is it Michelle?
Yes.
Good evening, Michelle.
Michelle Sutton, thank you.
Oh, okay. You're Michelle Sutton?
Yes.
Really?
Really.
Okay, so it's good to have you. Is this your first time here?
Second time.
Okay, with me?
No, first time with you.
Okay.
Second time last week.
Yes, also it was your first time.
You were here last week?
Yes.
On this show?
No.
Why does everybody do me that?
What?
I asked her if it is her first time here, meaning on the show. She said no, she was here last week.
Right.
Oh,
she
yeah,
thought
sorry.
you meant first time
here in the studio. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So it's good to have you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for having us.
Okay. So before we go into what we're going to talk about, Chevrolet, I don't know if this question will be well placed, but because of some information reaching my desk recently, caused me to ask this question. If it is not well placed under your watch, it's okay.
Okay.
How are we doing with our non-communicable diseases?
We could be doing better.
Much better.
That's the proper answer. We could be doing much better.
Okay.
But we are not as bad as we could have been. But we could be doing better. We need some improvement.
Okay. All right. So let's get to why we're here specifically tonight.
All right. So we're here to talk about some initiatives that we have for the first quarter of the year. They are more geared towards controlling non-communicable diseases and more specifically obesity. For the activities for the first quarter of the year, they're geared towards preventing obesity. And so the first one I want to talk about is our annual World Obesity Day Relay, which is coming up on March the 7th. World Obesity Day is usually is not celebrated, but the awareness is on the 4th of March. And the day was basically created to bring awareness to the impact on the health of a person, the health of the community, and the healthcare system that obesity has. And of course, obesity has a lot of trickle effects on health, and so we usually use that day to more hone in on how we could prevent obesity, what are some of the causes of obesity, you know, how we could treat it and stuff like that. And so what the Health Promotion Unit has been doing for the past couple of years, we've been doing a road relay. We call it a fun run in the sun. The relay usually takes place on the Friday of the week that World Obesity Day falls on, and it's a relay that goes through the streets of Charlestown. It starts at Best Buy Gingerland. It starts at Best Buy, the road in Best Buy in town, and it ends at the Sim Daniel bus. There are 5 legs to the relay, and this relay was created so persons could get active. It was just a fun way for us to come up with for persons to get active, do something active. You try to, you run in the relay. It's a fun relay. It's not supposed to be competitive, but you know how the division public is, you know how we see sports. So sometimes it does get competitive, but it's all in good fun. So persons could be encouraged to get up and get moving. And I wanted to come on the show tonight to encourage persons to join a team of 5 to take part in the relay. The relay, over the past few years, we have encouraged persons, because it was geared towards the working adults to get active, because you know, and Michelle is going to touch on this some more, we sit a lot, we go to work, we park very close to where we go to work and stuff. So I wanted to gear towards the working world, and so it was more towards persons who work, businesses, departments in the government and stuff like that. But we have, since last year, we opened it up, so we have groups who could take part now. So a community group, a group of friends, you know, if you're gym buddies and you decide, okay, we could probably take part in this. Older persons in the community who feel they're fit enough to take part in this, they're also welcome to take part in the relay. It does not have to be all male, it doesn't have to be all female, it could be a mix, right? And seeing that I'm encouraging persons to join the relay, I want to talk about the legs. Some persons who are thinking about it, you could say, well, I could do this leg. So the first leg is a quick sprint through town, and it's not top athletes running, so you know, it's a quick sprint through town. So we have, from the first leg is from outside Best Buy, this is the streets of Charlestown, so Best Buy to the Charlestown police station. That's the first leg. Second leg is from Charlestown police station to the library or the courthouse. The third leg is from there to in front the iron shed, or for those who don't know what the iron shed is, the entrance to the pier. And then from there you go across the Samuel Hunkins Drive and then turn up by Octagon Road. You hand off the last button, the last handoff is to the top of that road, and then that person, the last leg, runs from there, goes straight to the same Daniel bus, and that is where the relay ends. So it's usually pretty fun, it happens really fast, and of course the police force usually works really well with us. We always want to thank them. They usually block off the streets of Charlestown from traffic coming, for persons who don't get injured and have to be running into vehicles for the short time that we have the race going on. And so that is that's one of the reasons why we wanted to come here, so we could encourage persons to join the team. We usually have 8 teams join, and so we're encouraging persons. And of course we have prizes for first, second and third, and each person on each team gets participation prizes as well.
And Mrs. Sutton?
Yes, so along with the week of activities, ultimately this year we're doing a week of activities starting from the February 28th. Friday, February 28th, we're going to be doing a park and walk initiative. It's the first of many we hope to have for this year. So ultimately the park and walk is it's based on the fact that most persons who work in the office are sitting at the desk for up to 8 hours. They drive to work, and then they get up when they drive to work, they park close to their workplace, then they go and sit down. Many persons are probably getting up just to heat up their food, but we're not walking enough as a working population. And then if they do not participate in any kind of physical activity, ultimately you're sitting and probably sleeping almost up to your whole entire day.
Yeah.
You know, literally, if you add up the number of minutes walking for persons who live a sedentary lifestyle, who do not walk anywhere, they're up to, you can say, yeah, most of the day is sitting down, they're hardly moving. And ultimately, what is the effects on their system? So their cardiovascular system, the pulmonary system, so their breathing, the way their heart works, their musculature, the atrophy of their muscles, it's just compounded and ultimately leads to, unfortunately, that will lead to obesity. Hence why the Park and Walk initiative on February 28th, we want persons who work in town or doing errands in town to park in the villa and you walk to your destination. So that will give you at least 1,000 steps in general, or up to 2,000 steps, depending on how much more you're walking in the, that day. And then the following week, the week of World Obesity Day, from March 3rd to the 7th, we are looking at a step quest, where persons now will use their smart devices, either their phone or their smartwatch, and we're asking the public to look at trying to accumulate at least 2,000 steps during their working hours, so between 8 and 4. And that's another initiative along with ending with the relay on Friday. So the Park and Walk on the Friday, and then the week from the 3rd to the 7th, we're asking persons, the working population, to try to accumulate at least 2,000 steps every day between 8 and 4.
I detect that these events can be well geared towards minimizing some of those same communicable diseases. Would I be correct?
Yes, you're correct.
Yes, because when you look at your physical activity, like diet and healthy lifestyle ultimately means that you're taking care of your mind, body, and soul. So the physical activity, obviously, for the physical body, the diet, what you're eating, generally, once you start becoming more physical, you'll be more aware of the fuel you put in your body, which is your food. So that's another reason why we're looking at the walking. You're not going to be as sluggish. You'll be wondering to yourself, wow, I'm only walking from the villa to my office, but it might seem kind of strenuous. Even down to that simple burst of exercise might be something that someone needs, just to be aware of the fact that they're not active enough.
Yes.
Because one of the things, when you look at the psychology of physical activity, many persons stop because it's too hard. And then how do you assess yourself? Simple assessments is always the key to a healthy lifestyle. What can I do? What can I not do? And don't be looking at running a marathon, just like the fun run in the sun. The distance is very, very short, and it was geared towards a working population running less than, you say approximately each leg is 50 meters max. So that is, again, when you look at the fun run in the sun, it was geared towards a working population. If you cannot run 50 meters, you got to think twice. So even the viewing population, persons who come out to spectate, we wanted you looking at the fact that there's a fun run in the sun, yes, it's quick, but then you say to yourself, can I jog or walk 50 meters without falling down? It makes you now wonder, how healthy am I?
And another thing too, if you find yourself, let's just say for example, you work in the vicinity of the police station and you walk from the villa to the police station, and you are deadbeat tired, that's an indication that you need to get active. Because you shouldn't be so bust down from just doing a short walk, and nobody's asking you to brisk walk it, you're just walking.
But even today I had a young lady, and I could say young, she's 20-something years old, and she was like, Michelle, how you come up these stairs every day? I'm like, you're joking, right? So we literally left the office together, we went down the steps, and we went back up, and I looked behind me, and she's halfway up the steps, and she's like, that's how quickly you walk up the steps every morning?
Every day.
I said, but that wasn't quick, I'm not running. And she is 20-something years old. So even down to that, we the young persons have to be mindful of the fact that non-communicable diseases is related to an unhealthy lifestyle. So again, the step quest that we're asking persons to do from March 3rd to the 7th. But in general, you should be trying to get as many steps as possible in the day. But for the working population, when you're sitting behind that desk, you're not mindful of that. So just getting up and, as we were saying last Wednesday, marching on the spot. There's so many different also office-based activities you can get online that you don't necessarily have to go outside. But again, when you look at going outside, the fresh air, the boost of energy you get from just taking a 5-minute walk is equivalent to drinking a cup of coffee, drinking a soda, or looking for something to increase that level of energy. Just going for a 5-minute walk is equivalent to doing a boost, taking a boost drink. So that's what we're here to say.
Right. So you had indicated earlier that a lot of folks don't do these simple things because they find it's too hard.
Yep, it's too hard. It takes too much time. All the excuses come.
Yeah, it's too hot. That's another thing too.
Hot.
We're at AC. Why we love our AC now? So they don't want to sweat. We don't want to glisten.
Yeah.
But then again, sweating also is important for your health. It's a purification system that we have. Hence why we sweat, to cool ourselves down. So if you're not even sweating often, people don't realize that your body can acclimatize to the point where it'll be harder for you to sweat if you're not sweating often enough. That makes sense.
So they don't walk, they don't jog, they don't do certain exercises. And they said because it's too hard.
Yes.
They tell you that?
Yeah, they don't tell us that. They will tell us that it's too hard.
And you actually believe that?
Well, it's not about belief.
Believe it. It's just the excuses.
No, walk with me. All I want to know is if when they tell you that, if you believe them.
Sometimes.
To a certain
Depends on who's talking
extent.
to
Yeah,
us.
depends on who's speaking to you. But again, it's come back to the mindset, right? So ultimately, if you are free of a disease or illness, I'm 20 years old, I'm 25, 30, and I'm free of illness. Am I really thinking that I'm sick? No. Am I living a lifestyle that's going to help me to be healthy for the rest of my life? No. When am I going to find that out? When another 5 years, being 35, 40, and then all of a sudden you go to the doctor and your pressure's elevated, your the LDLs, your the cholesterol is elevated. What do? You now have to recognize you lived 20 years almost unhealthy. So then now the habits you have formed for 20 years is going to be very difficult to change. So when they say it's hard to change, technically yes it is, because it's 20 years of a bad habit that you have to break. You have to break.
Yeah.
So that's what we're saying, even the step quest, getting that 2,000 steps in. For someone who's not walking, that is a good enough challenge for you. Like, okay, how do I feel? And then you could up it next week, the following week, to maybe 2,500. So eventually you might be able up to 4,000 steps just during your work day, just by doing that simple walk. But we want to start at a simple challenge, something that is reasonable. You get 2,000 steps by walking around. When we did yesterday, we did that. We calculated it. If you walk around town, so from our office, go down to town and come back up, you'll get about 1,500 steps. So that's a block.
Oh wow.
So literally, if you
is easy.
2,000 is very. That's what I said. We want persons to see that it's a within reason if you're not accustomed to walking, because that's the issue, that a lot of office workers are not walking 3,000 steps a day.
If I were to go back to the hypothetical that you use, you're 20-something, you don't walk, you don't exercise, you go to the doctor, reach maybe 20-something, 30, your LDL is up, you have this disease, communicable, non-communicable disease, and etc., you're sick. Then what?
Then you take the precautionary measures to control it.
Right, and then you also blame somebody, right?
Yes.
Maybe the government.
Yes, usually it's the government.
No, see, I say it because most people are afraid to say it.
But it should be blame the government either.
But I blame the government for everything. That's what you're trying to say.
I know, I understand that.
No. That's what I'm trying to ask.
Well,
right. So then you do that, and then you feel satisfied, just as if you just make a deposit in your bank, right?
Right.
Okay.
So the
because the truth is, that's what happens.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's very.
But in because I'm coming out of education, so this is kind of a soft, ticklish spot for me. Education does provide opportunities for persons to be healthy. We have physical and health education in our preschools. We have it in our primary schools. We have it in our high schools. We have 300 students each year writing PE for CSEC. I was examiner for how many years for CSEC PE. But the issue that we have, being a teacher of PE and a coordinator for the physical and health education program, or health and wellness, that's the core subject we have now, is the lack of modeling in the households. So when we send the students home with our fitness journal, and we say, okay, exercise 3 times a week at least, they'll come home and you ask the parents, is your mommy and daddy participating with you? Not really. So then ultimately what we have to look at is the fact that even the schools are providing the opportunity. What is the healthy lifestyle standards do we have amongst adults? As children, what I observe is nothing scientific, but what I observe over the past 20 years is that also, you almost could say physical activity is seen as a juvenile thing. So persons who walk, who can't drive. So the children will be walking to school because they can't drive. when you go into town at high school, you have to walk to get your lunch because you don't have a car to hop in. The moment you go into the working environment, it's amazing how many persons become not as active. And then you have to look at the fact that the sporting culture, as Chevrolet mentioned, we're very competitive. So if I used to be a netballer, well, me personally, I used to play basketball, played football, I played a lot of sports. But I tell persons I no longer participate in sports. However, I'm physically active. There's a big difference. And when you look at the psychology of it, many times persons who are top athletes, they're quicker to fall off if they're not participating for 10 years because they want to go back to their athletic self versus looking at their healthy self, because for many years they were competing and training and they were not exercising. So it's a whole gamut of issues or trends that you see amongst the working population. The children get the opportunity, but once you become adults, for some reason there is a big gap between being physically active as a child and the moment you go to work. I no longer have to exercise until, unfortunately, you go to the doctor and you find out these results.
Until you start to get big and you're obese and your clothes can't fit you anymore.
Yes, but bigness, it all depends, because you could be nice and thick and fluffy too, but but also some persons want to be bigger too because maybe they're slim all their life and they see this. I remember a guy told me one time in St. Kitts, when I had the six-pack, that's when I was hungry. I was like, excuse me? He's like, yeah, when I was in the gym playing sports and thing, I was hungry, now this is progress. I was like, wow. And then I'm like, do you think twice now? Do some persons see weight as a progressive thing?
That's from back in the day though.
Yeah, but still, you don't know. I'm wondering what's the trend, why we are not concerned about our size. As you said, you're getting bigger, but you're not necessarily looking at if you're healthier. So there's a lot of questions we have to ask.
a lot of things to tie into it too, because we also, for lack of a word, we also romanticize getting big and fluffy, because they say, oh, you thick,
yes,
and you're thickers,
yes.
And so it's like you could say you're encouraged to get to a certain weight, which it becomes unhealthy after a while. Like,
are you thick or fat or thick and muscle?
Yeah,
that's the big difference.
It's context dependent.
So
there's a lot of gray areas that people
yes, we have to challenge. So these simple quests, it's just a matter of how active and how healthy are you. At our office as well, just take this opportunity, we now also offer a smart fitness assessment. So these are for persons who have not been physically active for a while. You come to us, you could book your appointment. We've gone to a few offices already, and it's a 30-minute fitness assessment for persons who are not too active. It's a step-up test. We do a planking. We do 5 different exercises that you can actually do at home, so you can assess yourself afterwards. But we at least give you the assessment, and you'll see where you rank when it comes down to your general fitness. Are you poor, needs improvement, average, above average? So it's not necessarily a test where you're looking to see how fit you are. It's just a matter of, it's a test to see really, it is, yeah, sorry, I shouldn't take it that. It is to see how fit you are, but not to see if you're in the shape to play a sport. It's just a matter to see how your general fitness is. So that's something else the Health Promotion Unit is offering.
What I don't seem to get is, why is it, maybe it is the duty of the school to do that part, and then the schools are now asking and wondering if the parents at home can help us where the fitness and exercising is concerned.
So you're asking, why is it the duty of the school?
Yes.
I guess the answer would be, the children are in school for a long period of time. They're in school in the day, when you would encourage physical activity more, and so you put it, the easy answer is you put it in the curriculum, because that's where they are in the day. They spend most of the time there.
Right. You see, the reason why I ask a question is because there's always a debate on whose responsibility or job it is. Not only with this, but also when people either misbehave. I heard a fellow make a point which I found was interesting, and he said, if a child does very well in their exams and so on and so forth, on graduation day, who do you think get the praises?
The parents.
The parents. If he ends up in jail, who gets the blame?
Should be the period.
Not who should get the blame. Who gets the blame?
The system.
The system or the government. Why I found it interesting is because I learned this from small, and I always repeat it. Where goes the glory must also go the shame.
Yeah.
But it seems as if in our society, perhaps, just perhaps, we have one set of people to, in case things go well, they get the credit. But if it doesn't go so well, you blame somebody else. That all my life is confusing me. Just like I told one of my heavyweights a little earlier. I don't know. All my life I've been trying to persuade people that I'm not stupid. But people keep behaving as if I'm stupid. I don't know. Maybe even going to my grave, I probably wouldn't get that riddle solved.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's a lot to consider.
There's a lot
But
to consider.
ultimately, it still links back to health in a sense that, as you mentioned, about if a child does well in school academically, who do we give the praises to? But we do know it's not just the parents. We know that we send them to school, we go to extra classes, well, we send the children to extra classes, so there is a certain amount of investment that comes from the system, which is the education system, and the parents. So I agree with the fact that if you're going to give the glory to the parents, at the same time you should be giving the glory to the teachers who worked hard along with those students, the programs that were designed and so forth to give them the opportunity to excel. And so then on the flip side, how many of our students, our young persons, are failing according to our societal standards, and who is contributing? So that's where the holistic approach to society ought to be. But how many of us are having that conversation because we're so quick to blame?
So only one part of the conversation we want to have.
Exactly, where we should be having the conversation in this whole, along the whole spectrum. Because then when you look at health as we're speaking about health, we're talking about physical health right now. But ultimately you have to be looking at health from the mental health. So the emotional health of persons, so emotional health, your financial health as you get older, your social health, your ability to interact. So even what you're saying, that when persons act as if you're foolish because they're doing things that you're questioning, why are you doing this in front of me or saying this in front of me? Do you think that I don't understand? But that comes back down to interpersonal skills. These are all, we are social beings, but also we have so many dimensions to us that many times we're only looking at maybe the cognitive level.
You just disconnected me there. So let's go back a bit. So yeah, you can just go back and repeat what you just said.
So
so when they behave so, I don't have any interpersonal skill.
No, you have interpersonal skills. I said they're speaking to you at a way that it makes you question, makes me think when you said that. It's like, what's their level of interpersonal skills that they're communicating to you and they're treating you as such, because you're a very intelligent person. So if you're questioning...
so you're suggesting that I am?
Yes, you
thank
are.
You for
I wouldn't
that.
suggest it. I think you are. I've listened to you for many years, and my mother is a big fan of yours, and I must say, you're very, very, very high up in rankings.
Okay, tell her hello for me.
Okay, no problem. I will. Marita Sutton. I'll tell her that tonight when I get home.
Okay, so they must understand that I'm not stupid, right?
Far from that.
Okay. I just wanted.
I want to know if you have a school and I'm willing to come to your school.
I figured so. This is a light moment. The last lady who sat in that seat also wanted to come to my school.
Oh gosh.
But I didn't want to teach.
There's something in the seat?
As I said, it's a light moment. But let's get back to the thing. So our duty is to make people, or to encourage them to understand that your health is in your hands.
Yes. Amen. Yes.
Right? And therefore, these simple things can provide what we call preventative measures.
Yes.
And as a consequence, if we do a lot of these things, we wouldn't have to do, as Shavana was saying, then we don't have to take certain medication, we don't have to, and so on and so forth. But it is the mindset, you're saying?
The mindset, the skill sets, what you commit to doing. That commitment to yourself and not worrying about others in a sense. Like if you're at walking stage, as we're promoting, you walk. You don't necessarily have to be looking at others. Take your health into your own hands.
And then I am detecting these two activities that you have coming up. It is just basically an illustration of things that we can do to achieve what we are all trying to achieve.
Yes.
Okay. So let's repeat those activities again.
All right. So we have the World Obesity Day Relay, a fun run in the sun. That's going to take place on March the 7th, Friday, March the 7th, starting at 2 p.m. Then we have on the Friday the 28th of February, we have our park and walk. We're encouraging persons to park in the villa grounds and walk to their destination on that day. And in the week of the 3rd of March to the 7th of March, we have our step quest, where we're encouraging persons between the hours of 8 to 4 to walk at least 2,000 steps. And what Michelle forgot to mention, that we have a raffle that we're going to be drawing at the coming closer to the end of the year, where every person that have taken part in most of our activities, all of our activities, you are eligible to enter the raffle. The day of the park and walk, we have a QR code that persons can scan and enter their information, so we know that you took part when you parked up at the villa. Something I think I should mention for the relay, after the relay day, so we have the relay that we have every year, and then we're gonna have an exhibition race after, which is gonna be the Ministry of Health versus the Ministry of Health in Nevis versus the Ministry of Health in St. Kitts, and that's gonna be our exhibition race. So we're encouraging persons to stick around after the first race, so you can take part in the second. You could view the second race.
You, based on my memory, you have done a few of those, a number of activities under that same objective.
Yes.
What's your feedback?
Okay. I don't know if you would remember, we tried something called Feet in the Street. I think it's, boy, I can't remember the year, but we tried Feet in the Street a few years ago, and I must say, a lot of the general public were for it, but we also got a lot of pushback, because persons were very upset that they were asked to park up on either end of Charleston and walk into their destination. And it was alarming, because it showed how unwilling people were to actually have to walk to where they were going, right? And so the feedback wasn't I would say, based on in relation to what we are trying to do, the health of the nation, what you see going the reason why we're doing this, it wasn't good. But you did have some persons that were for it, right? If I'm going to be fair, everybody wasn't upset about it.
You find that as a society we just enjoy being upset?
Yes. Yes, we enjoy being upset. We get furious when we are basically I don't want to use the word force, but you know, you're obligated to adhere to the rules. So the fact,
you ever, in order to solve that problem, try and encourage and say, "Work with me"?
Yes. So what we did now is make it voluntary, and so what we're doing encourages. So the police officers are not blocking off the streets like we did a couple of years ago. You can still decide, "I'm not take part in that, and I'm going to drive to the office and park up." But what we're hoping for is that, especially because it's voluntary, and you know, you listen to us talk about the importance of initiating exercise, some kind of activity, that you say, man, I could just do it for the one day. I could park up one day in town and walk in, and then maybe you could do it on your own the next Friday, because the idea for us is that we want to soft start and try to do this at least once a month if it goes off well, and then maybe later down the year we could try Feet in the Street again. Just it's like, okay.
So the bottom line is, you think we like to cut?
Yes.
Okay. And
we like to give pushback.
And you think they might even want to cuss you because you said we like to cut?
Yes.
Okay. So finally what? Your final comments.
So the final comments, I want persons to to think of putting together a team of 5 for the relay on the 7th of March. We're asking persons to at least register by the end of this week, which will be 21st of February, and also to think about taking part in the other initiatives. Park up and walk. You could get a friend to come with you, your carpool, so the walk downtown is not just you alone. The walk to grocery shop is not you alone. And of course, people who have cargo to drop off and stuff, heavy boxes, we don't expect you to walk into town with the boxes. But we just want a healthy nation. We want you to be able to say, boy, I have not exercised in the past 5 years and the walk wasn't bad. Maybe I should start exercising that afternoon, because I walked from the villa to the courthouse and it wasn't bad. And that is what when we first came up with the whole idea of the relay, that's what it was, because there are persons who take part in the relay. And because you haven't been exercising for a while, you know that I might need to at least do some kind of stretching, jogging for the 2 weeks leading up to it, right? Just so you don't get injuries and muscle issues. And so it then start, and I have had persons come to me and say, taking part in the relay is what made me started to get physically active, because it's like I had to exercise because I wanted to take part. I didn't want to let down the team, and then it just made me realize I could continue. And that is what I wanted people to get to go. Yes, you come and you spectate and you watch the fun race. So even for person who don't take part by running in the race, but you take part by being there, I want you to get inspired and be like, boy, if Michelle and Chevrolet could take part in the relay, then I could actually exercise too. And actually, I ain't gonna run in the relay, but I could go and do something physical.
Finally, Michelle.
Yeah, so to tag team on Chevronet's the relay, the walk-in, park-in villa, that is the basic step. So you park that day and you walk, or come up the bus at the villa and walk. And then the following week, we want persons to just be mindful of how many steps they're taking. So with the step quest, it's just a matter of being mindful of, let me see how many steps I am taking each day and improve on it each week. And so then that again will get you out of that sedentary lifestyle. Because on my last note is that even if you're exercising, committing to exercise for 30 minutes every day, and then you're sitting down for majority of the day, you're still living a sedentary lifestyle. So sometimes persons think because I go to the gym in the morning or go to the gym in the afternoon 3 times a week, I am living a healthy and active lifestyle. Actually, you're not. If you're not getting at least a certain amount of steps per day, right now we're saying, some persons say 5,000 steps per day, depending on where we live, 10,000 steps a day. But we're just asking, just be mindful of how many steps you are. Let's start working on improving the number of steps you take during your work day. And that will help you to be more active and healthy for life.
All right, well, thank you all very much. Hoping that you don't get cussed to say people like to cuss.
We're hoping so too.
Oh, okay. Well,
thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're hoping that it works and people continue to exercise because of the value in it. And I always say, not in terms of exercising. I always say to folks, I don't get it why people like so much sympathy, because sympathy don't pay no bills.
Nope.
So you don't exercise, you get sick, you blame the government or to help somebody else, but you're sick.
Exactly. You're still sick.
So, and you have a burden with that.
Yeah, but the sympathy, what happened? That makes you feel better?
Yeah. Make them feel less like it's their fault.
Oh.
And pay their bills. And pay their bills.
Yes.
Okay. That's the first segment. Thank you all again. We'll be back with our second segment right after this.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builders Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts or call them at 466-4938.
listening to Vaughn Radio from the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis.
Back with the second segment of this evening's Talk That Get Results. The first segment, Health Promotion Nevis. The Health Promotion Unit in the Nevis Island Administration talking about 2 promotional events to help us to get fit and stay fit. Those events, please support them if you can. The second segment, Conrad Nile Library, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to your hard-working staff here at Vaughn Radio. And Webbo, thank you for having me once again. I want to say a special good evening to a worker around the dock on the pier, Mr. Jevon. I can't remember the... Bissett. Special good evening to you. And I wish you can. I hope you're having a good evening and enjoying this program, as I know you always tune into. Webbo, thank you once again for having me. And of course, the previous segment was one of great interest, and I hope a lot of people is going to take the initiative to try and live a little healthier life by exercising a little more.
The Honorable Spencer Brand, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and a very pleasant good evening to my fellow panelists. Good evening to your hardworking and dedicated staff here. Good evening to our many listeners and viewers of this edition of the Let's Talk show tonight. Webbo, I want to, as Naya did, I thought that the discussion prior to us was indeed a very interesting one. I think that there was some very valuable information that I hope that our people would take advantage of and adhere to. Well, I want to take this opportunity to say congratulations to a number of young people. I first want to start with young Kimani Newton, who once again would have booked his place at our next Carifta in Trinidad. In the 800 meters. I believe that this is a young man who I have been keeping an eye on him. I know that his uncle, Corvin Wallace, was our first Olympian. And I believe, Webbo, that he is a young man who I feel have what it takes to go to that level and do extremely well. So I certainly want to congratulate Commander Newton on once again booking his place at our next Carifta in Trinidad and Tobago. Webbo, I also want to congratulate young Alexander Keynes as well in the US, who would have retained his championship, so to speak, in the 6,600 meters there in another meet there in the US. And this is another product of our Nivision stock. And I hope he too can continue to do well, Webbo, in his athletics exploit. And I also, Webbo, want to congratulate young Carlon Bowen Tuckett for scoring from what I have observed to have been one of the most flamboyant centuries there at the Kensington Oval in Barbados. 103 not out, and this is the son of one of my former classmates, Carl Tuckett. And I thought that Webbo, making his maiden century at age 20 in Barbados, I believe that all of the we will say in local parlance, all of the ducks are lighting up for this young man, and I certainly want to wish him every continued success in his cricket exploit. So, but these are 3 young people who I feel have what it takes, in my mind, to go the distance, have what it takes to reach to the top. And I hope that the examples of these young men can continue to encourage other young people to know that once they put in the work and once they put in the effort, that they can certainly reach to higher heights. So I want to congratulate all of them. And of course, Webbo, we are having our sports season at this time, and we are also seeing some other emerging talents. I certainly want to wish all of our athletes the very best. Webbo, I want to end by offering happy belated birthday to Conrad Naya Libel. I took note that I believe it was sometime last week where he would have celebrated his birthday. Can I call it the figure, Naya?
Yes, of course. It's not too much.
He would have celebrated his 60th birthday last week. So I want to wish you Naya happy belated birthday, and I certainly hope that you can have many, many more wonderful birthdays. I know last year was a particularly challenging year for you, and of course your family by extension. But I certainly, I hope that you can continue to have many, many more birthdays. I hope you had a wonderful birthday. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
And it is good to see that we are getting up in those kind of ages. So Webbo, thank you for the invitation, and I am certainly looking forward to the discussion tonight.
Roger Fifield, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to my fellow panelists. I'd also like to say good evening to all those who are viewing and listening via the various medias. We, of course, those who are celebrating, happy birthday. And of course, I too would join Mr. Brannan saying happy birthday belated. Naya, you hit this one from us. But the cat is up the bag, you know, and you know, when I reach your age, I want to look, you know, half as good as you are looking now. I think that would be good, you know. Webbo, those who might be mourning, I want to say,
Yes.
you know, stay strong. You know, allow the Lord to be your pillar and your rock and your tower of strength, and He would see you through these difficult times. Webbo, I also want to say congratulations to all of the athletes that Mr. Brand spoke of, including Mr. Bowen Tuckett. I would also like to say a hearty congratulations to the Easterns team, my team. We would have played in the 10-10 cricket championship over the weekend, well, in the finals, and first time in a number of years that Easterns would have made any cricket finals here on Island, and we didn't win. We managed to place second, so I must say congratulations to the guys. I know they would have worked hard, and we fell a bit short, but next time hopefully, you know, we would be able to go over the hump and, you know, attain first place. But was a good tournament for us. Congratulations again, guys. Webbo, as per usual, I want to invite the listeners and the viewers to call in. This is an interactive program. We can learn something from you, and you can, of course, learn something from us. And as per usual, Webbo, I know that this program is going to be a fruitful one, so I'm looking forward for the discussion. Yes.
Yeah, what we got?
Well, there's lots in the newspaper. I'm not sure if we should go back there because last week we spoke of the geothermal project. I've read in the newspaper that they have received finance for the project, and soon, the word soon was used, they're going to commence drilling for five wells. Not too conclusive, you know, from my point of view. I'm hoping for more direct talk and details in a sense, but maybe it's just too early for that. But also there is there is also the report from the World Bank as it relates to the financial sharing between both islands, and that seems to be, you know, front and center, of course, as it's always been an issue as to the sharing of finance between both islands. And so to me these are two very important areas. To go back to the geothermal, I had to ask a friend of mine, I think it will be drilling for geothermal as well, because as I say, sometimes information coming is a bit sketchy and vague, but it is of course a good hearing to know that the finance has been received and drilling is about to commence for the 5 wells. I wasn't aware that there was so much wells in Nevis, and I asked the question if there's going to be drilling in St. Kitts also. And so we look forward to that. I'm not sure if my colleagues will have something to say on that matter.
Well, Naya, you are correct that just, I believe it was last week, where we would have seen a joint statement by both the Prime Minister and the Premier of Nevis to the effect that the Saudis would have gave a commitment to fund the shortfall, so to speak, that was that the project was facing. CDB, as we know, would have committed $16–17 million for this project, and the Saudis have now come on board and contributing $20 million. The estimate originally was around $35 million for the drilling phase of this project. You spoke about 5 wells. From my understanding of it, 2 of those wells are what we call reinjection wells, where based on, it's a, in layman term, it's a kind of loop system where you take out the heat and you reinject it back into the, so it's so 3 would be providing the necessary energy or resource, and then the other 2 would be going back into the, so that is where we are. We are going through that process of the selection of the driller. It has been a very robust process. There have been a number of companies from throughout the world really that have shown some interest, and we are hoping that in very short order the driller would be selected, and once that driller is selected, then they can get mobilized and get on with the drilling. That is where we are. It's a project that I feel is absolutely vital and critical to the development of St. Kitts and Nevis. We continue to see there a lot of instability in other parts of the world, and when there are certain statements and pronouncements by global powers, we here in these parts can be severely impacted. And we continue to see as well with the variance of oil prices, which is the main component, so to speak, of the economy and our energy and so on. Once we can get that cost down, or once we can be able to manage that cost at a much more manageable level, then I feel that the economy of Nevis and St. Kitts together can see some significant growth. And I believe that the project is also one that is environmentally friendly, where the fossil fuel continue to create some issues for the environment, the ozone layer and all of that, and the damage it can cause. So I feel that at the end of the day, when this project comes online, I believe that the cost benefit in my mind would definitely outweigh the negatives, and I believe at the end of the day that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis would be much better off once the advent of geothermal is available to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. It is something that I feel that we are at, in my mind, the best possible point of achieving it. This geothermal has been around for quite some time. There have been a lot of starts and stops. There have been a lot of
hit and miss. There have been even been court cases over this geothermal. I feel that the partnership, and I keep calling it a partnership, I feel that the partnership with the federal government and the Nevis Island administration, in essence, somewhat singing from the same hymn sheet in terms of trying to move this initiative forward, is at a point where I feel it is the best possible time for us to see this come to fruition. And I think that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis are weary and perhaps fed up and of quote unquote all the talk about this particular project. I think that our people is just waiting and hoping to see the results. That, I believe, would go down to the benefit of our people.
Webbo, of course, as I said last week, if we can get energy, that would be substantially cheaper, and not just cheaper but cleaner in terms of the emissions and stuff like that. St. Kitts Nevis could only be a better place. I can foresee, investors and the whole economy and a whole taking off to higher heights. So we would welcome that, and no doubt Mr. Brand would have alluded to that, Nivisions basically are waiting for a number of years, and we want that to come to fruition sooner rather than later for the benefit of all.
Yes, I mean, these conversations to me are very important, it's not like I'm in any way playing devil's advocate or trying to be in some way, difficult on the matter, because speaking of it, I mean, from this platform is very important for the public consumption, because sometimes it's been spoken about in high places, and somehow we're not always connected. And so even me myself, listening to you, Mr. Brand, and Mr. Fifield, it have brought some clarity to my mind as to where it actually is and what is taking place. Because there are times when you're out there and you're doing so much, and again it's been spoken, it's been talked about for so long. Sometimes you just don't pay much of I'll give it the attention it deserves, I suppose. But here we are today, and we are almost realizing the fulfillment of so many years of back and forth and so forth. The fulfillment of something that would be absolutely dear to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And so I also read about a solar farm in St. Kitts, and producing some 50 megawatts, and that again to me is of great interest. I'm happy that the Federation is moving in that direction, and I'm happy that the Federation is moving in that direction, and of course the economic benefit should be immense. Investors coming here using energy which is of clean energy, and of course less expensive, and so forth. So I'm very happy about that going forward. I am not here to stimulate the negativity at all going forward, and of course we got to sometimes stay away from that as it relates to these very, very important projects, and to kind of take the politics out of it, because we can't afford to miss such opportunity. That is coming.
Let me just get this. Yeah. Good evening. Thank you for holding. Hello. Hello.
Webbo.
Naya, go ahead.
And so yes,
Naya, I think that the thrust for St. Kitts and Nevis is to try as far as possible to be energy independent and energy self-sufficient, and I believe that a lot of the other territories throughout the OACS have recognized, and I've recognized it now for some time, that their energy bill continue to, in some significant part, continue to retard their progress. We have sun. Talk about solar. Yes, there is going to be an upfront cost for the installation of solar farm and all of that. A lot of these Caribbean countries are of the volcanic nature, where that is again another renewable and natural resource. And many countries on an annual basis, when they look at their bottom line for energy, it is significant, and it must come to a point where that the high cost of energy for these small island states and what we are paying now is not sustainable. The cost of energy is literally perhaps even bankrupt in a lot of these countries, and is depriving a lot of these countries from providing a lot of the other necessary services that is necessary. I think as well, for these countries to seriously attract local and foreign investment, and I put it that way, local and foreign investment, one of the first questions that is always being asked is, can you provide two things? Well, three things. Can you provide the workforce, a capable and competent workforce? Can you provide energy? And the third, I would twin both of them together, security and water. And if someone is coming into your country, or even a local investor don't feel that those pillars of the economy is not in place, they're not going to invest. And that is just the nature of persons making a judgment call on the return on their investment. So I feel that with renewable energy, I think that is going to maintain a certain cost for your energy, and with that I believe that it's going to naturally be able to attract certain different types of our investment, both local and foreign, and I think that it would help to also grow the economy. I at the variance of foreign forces and foreign powers, tomorrow OPEC can decide that they are going to turn down the valve by a few million barrels. It is going to hit us, and I think that that is what a lot of these small island developing states are seeking to achieve, trying to be energy independent. And I think that if we can achieve that, I believe that it's going to go a very long way for the livelihood and development of our people. There is a lot that is at stake with this geothermal, and let us not kid ourselves. When this geothermal comes on stream, it is expected that, and my hope is and my expectation is that we will see a significant trickle-down benefit to the ordinary man and woman on the street. And if we are not able to achieve that, might as if we leave it where it is.
Yeah, I've been also told about the other products that might come to the surface. You may refer to them as byproducts from the drilling. A term that is referred to as geothermal mining, you know, where they have all kind of probably precious metals and other things that will be of value, and so I mean it's a win-win situation, you know. But you mentioned about the three things that an investor might be interested in, and it's very it's of concern to me, because you say workforce. Do you think we have that workforce that is necessary to lead to attract investors? Because just the other night you asked me some questions, and we speak about employment in Nevis, and I think I said to you that it's hard to find people to work. Well, it's difficult to find people to work sometimes here on island, and it's almost sounds very good, you know, that we have almost like full employment. Yes.
Yeah, I when it comes to the matter or the topic of workforce or the availability of persons to take up certain jobs. For some reason, I am, and this might sound strange, I am not too worried about it, and here's why I'm going to say this. We saw some documentation, I believe it was a few weeks ago, where I believe it was at the Cayman Islands or Bahamas, one of those places, were sending out invitation to persons here in the Federation to take up certain jobs in those.
Turks and Caicos, maybe.
One of those islands, Turks and Caicos, Cayman, one of them. I believe it was for a hotel or something that was happening there. And I'm saying, here it is where, in this territory, where they are about to launch this high-end, high-class hotel facility, where they are reaching not only in St. Kitts and Nevis, I believe it was a kind of regional request that went out. And I feel, Naya, that once we get into a situation like that here in St. Kitts and Nevis, people are going to naturally move across borders. We are seeing a situation right now in the US where the policy of the new president, where he is seeking to deport a lot of illegal personnel in the US, and a lot of persons are saying that would have a catastrophic impact on the economy in the US, because the persons who they are seeking to deport, don't get me wrong, if someone is in your country illegally, you have the right to take whatever measures you need to take. But I'm saying that here it is, the economy of the US, some persons are saying that could be threatened because you are deporting certain class of workers out of your country, and then once those persons are deported, perhaps, yes, you might create a situation where your own citizens would fill those jobs, but what you might be willing to pay some of those illegal immigrants in your country, you definitely will not be able to pay. So it creates a situation where perhaps the cost of living may escalate a bit. Perhaps it may create other cascading impacts within the economy. So when it comes around employment and filling employment, I believe that the natural movement of people and the availability of those positions, people are going to find them. We here in St. Kitts and Nevis have had the experience, Naya, of going to St. Martin, going to the Virgin Islands, going to Canada and England and United States to fill certain jobs and so on, and I believe that our people would have made significant contribution to the development of those various territories. So I've had my godfather and godmother in working in hotels in St. John's, and they were able to do what they did and send back their monies and help build their home and those kind of things. So it's a dynamic situation. So I feel that once there are vacancies within any Caribbean countries, people are naturally going to move and try and fill those vacancies. My hope is that our people would equip themselves, prepare themselves, develop the kind of mindset that they must themselves become hustlers to try and fill. And I say hustlers in the sense of not in a negative way, but must be willing to be aggressive, so to speak, in filling some of these vacancies.
But of course, any initial assessment of possible investment by investor will have to deal with these facts, and could be sometimes hesitant as to getting involved because, you know, as I say, initial assessment of the situation. I do think it poses a bigger problem than you have probably just, what could I say, elucidated upon in a, in a sense. The movement of people is not that easy really. Because I'm not sure how often you come across the need for workers, but that happened to me quite often. Just can't find people to work here in Nevis. And whereas it is a good economic indicator that yes, the country seems to be at full capacity, it also produces a situation where it stifles investments, you know, and of course they say it can also lead to inflation because everybody got money and people want to spend more, and that would force up the prices. So it's of course of concern to me, and yes, there is movement of people. But we need to have a lot more people moving here. So what comes first, the project or the people? I suppose the projects. So it seems like we got to go out there and attract investors, you know, and therefore then the people will follow through.
Well, Naya,
so whereas it is a good indicator that the island is at full capacity in terms of output and production, and it makes the question, what do we produce? We're talking about goods and services, yes, but it's also to me speaks to the fact that we've been not successful in getting investors. Well, and that could be one of the drawbacks.
I think.
And if we were getting investors, then the people would have been following through.
I want to look at two things. You say that the full employment. I believe you say maybe a drawback. I'm paraphrasing, but I look at full employment.
Can be seen as a drawback.
Yeah, I look at
in certain school of thought.
I look at full employment as a benefit to the employee. And I'm going to explain to you why. Because if there is a business who, for one reason or the other, and you have said you are finding it difficult to find people to work, right? It means then, as a businessman, Naya may have to pay a little bit more to attract someone to work in his business.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Exactly. So I look at it as perhaps the ultimate beneficiary for
really negative investments.
Not necessarily,
because there isn't much flexibility in,
not necessarily
in the labor market.
It means that for you to attract the best of the best in your field,
to raise the price,
you may have to pay a little bit more.
Investors don't want to pay a big price on it, you know? Investors want cheap labor.
But Naya, I appreciate that investors may want cheap labor, but if you are coming to offer a world class
level of skill,
if you are coming to offer a world class product, you must be prepared to pay for world class
service.
But if you can, don't pay for world class service, but get world class service, that would be the icing on the cake.
Yeah, but now how do you expect that your people? How do you expect that your people that is offering a world class service is going to
the same thing we're talking about,
advance themselves and elevate themselves if you as an investor are not prepared to pay for that world class service?
But what if I can come in here, guys? If
interesting,
if employment is full, then the personnel resources, you know, would be somewhat scarce. And if the personnel resources, if they are scarce, then you want the best person with the best skill set to perform the particular job or duty. And if you want that person who is best suited for that particular job, then that person would come along with a price tag, and that price tag would be much higher than just the average person. But if I can shift just a little bit slightly in terms of what you were saying, Naya, in terms of full capacity, so to speak, in terms of employment. When we look at that, we could see some advantages in that persons would be gainfully employed. And if persons are gainfully employed, then you would have very few idle hands. And if we have very few idle hands, then we ought to see a reduction in crime. And that, I think, is something positive. So if the employment rate is at 98, 99, 99.999, I believe that it is more of a good than of a negative drawback, in my opinion.
Yes, socially, but I'm really looking at it from economic development, economic advancement point of view.
I got you, Naya, and I still believe we have to look at it holistically. We have to look at, you know, all aspects, all segments, so to speak, of what happens when we are at that, when we are at optimum, so to speak. And then when we take all of those aspects and bring them together, we weigh the good, we weigh the bad, both socially and economically, and see what comes out of it. And I still believe, you know, that persons being gainfully employed, I still believe that it is more of a positive than a negative.
Yes.
When we look across, to
absolute negative in any way at all.
To even our sister and brothers in Haiti, and we understand the low rate of employment, and we see what happening there in terms of gang violence and shooting and killing and stuff like that. We understand when we look at, you know, even home here in St. Kitts and Nevis, where, based on what you are saying, you know, we are basically cannot find persons to work. We don't find that type of crime and criminal activities that is associated, you know, with other countries that have a low
the social repercussions of unemployment. It also negative investments, you know. And of course, but to a great extent, there's one school of thought that says full employment can lead to slow economic growth because there isn't much flexibility in the market for workers, and therefore investors would have to pay high price for workers, and that would keep them off, you know. And of course, what we are talking about is an interesting conversation, because I think Nevis, and I'm not too much sure about St. Kitts, but Nevis is in that very special place in terms of finding people to work, and at the same time looking for that economic growth that we so much need, you know, that we talk about every day, and of course any government in place, you know, would want that.
Maybe what need to happen, Naya, and this has been bandied about, you know, for many years, you know, diversity of the economy, you know, and if we could have that, you know, I believe that would, you know, would help, you know, significantly in terms of, you know, listening, you know, the what you would have spoke about there in terms of the economic negative impacts.
Well, any form of diversification falls back on the same shortage of people to work, people to function. I mean, people in agriculture, there is no farm out there with a lot of people, and every day people come say they want to work on the farm. No, the big farmer over, so he can't find nobody to work. That's what he told me the other day. you know. And the welder up there, you know, he can't find nobody to work because everybody who he has trained now will open their own shop.
And that we have to speak to incentives too. You know,
which is all good. Which is all good. What I'm saying, you know, for people who have trained in welding, they have gone and opened their own shop and everything else, and they themselves can't find people to work either.
Now let me ask you a question. You're finding it to be an issue, or and I don't want to personalize it to you,
no,
as an individual, but you are finding it to be an issue where the idea of full employment, or near full employment, is a problem.
Not to me, you know. Not to me. I'm looking at Nevis. On a whole.
But in the Nevis context, if Nevis is seen as we are,
the question is whether or not it is encouraging or discouraging economic growth. The fact that we can't find people to work, we're almost seeing like full employment. You know, and it's hard to say full employment.
Yeah, but how would that
know?
discourage economic growth though?
Because there is no flexibility in the market. If anybody wants to come here and build a big place, a big hotel, there's nobody to work. I mean, that's as clear as day.
Now, maybe
you would have natural in the oil fields of what it was, St. John, St. Thomas, in those, and in Curacao, those places, there would be a natural movement of people to fill these employment. We are seeing a situation right now in Ghana.
I understand.
We are seeing a situation.
But you understand that.
I understand.
You know how I'm viewing this. Yeah. As a kind of the present situation is as such. The question is whether or not this have the state of affairs here as it relates to employment, you know, and almost full the fact that you can't find people to work. Is that a good thing for economic growth?
I could understand your argument.
Is it a bad thing? And I'm just saying that there's a school of thought that say more flexibility in the workforce would lead to more investment and more economic growth.
I look at it slightly differently. I look at it as perhaps a significant beneficiary to the employee, because it means that if it is that there is a fight over this particular skill set or this trade, and you want to make sure that you hold on to that skill set, then I feel that you may have to adjust a little salary, and that person will benefit at those persons.
Yes, but you see,
I am looking up for the upward mobility of the employee.
Yes, the employee is in a stronger position.
Yes.
No, the employer, the investor now, he's in the weaker position. So why invest?
I don't necessarily agree.
People...
No, why invest? If you now have to pay such high rates, now an investor would enjoy paying low rates. Every investor. And that's why sometimes I question whether or not the minimum wage thing here in St. Nevis, what it's really doing to us, you know. Because even as I made the point the other night, a little girl who probably wants some help in a restaurant, she finds she got to pay $500 per week come June, you know, and then she would just complicate her mind and say, look, I'm going to do it by myself, because you know, yes, I need this help, but I got to pay out too much. And then you look at a place like St. Lucia, then where the minimum wage is much less, then investors will be more attracted to such places.
Yes, but Naya, in all respects to my brothers and sisters in St. Lucia, the standard of living here is slightly higher, is a bit higher than, so the cost.
But a man in America who got 50 million to spend, so I mean, he cares about standard of living in St. Lucia and standard of living in Nevis. He cares about.
But he will look at his bottom line.
His wage bill. His return on his investment. How much he will have to pay workers in Nevis as opposed to St. Lucia for doing the same job.
Yes, but at the same time, when you come to Nevis, you get in a world-class service.
From who?
What do you mean from who? What do you mean from who?
It's a world-class service from who?
Naya, our service sector and our service industry here.
It's higher than St. Vincent and St. Lucia.
What I am saying is that we offer a world-class service here on the island of Nevis.
But St. Lucia's can say that too, and St. Vincent can say that as well. Just a topic of interest.
Yes, it is.
It's very interesting in my opinion. I believe, Naya, I think I can understand. I believe that I can argue for both positions. I believe basically what the picture that I'm getting that you are painting is like if this surface here is the land base, or let me put it this way: if you are speaking to that this surface is a land base and investors may not be coming in because all of the persons on here, you know, are basically occupied already in terms of being employed, then a number of things could happen. Once we have the land mass, the land base, you know, for example, I'm just going to use this as an example. Factories could be set up. If factories are set up, then the government now must understand that all of my citizens are gainfully employed. What can I do to attract persons to come in to my island, my country, to fulfill? Because mind you, when these foreign investors comes in, they are paying taxes. So the government and the people of the country or the island will be benefiting. So basically, the more you get, the more investors you get, the better it is. When more people are living on island, you know, the rate of turnover in the supermarkets, in all the stores, you know, increase. And if it increase, you know, the rate of turnover is essentially, you know, how you make a profit. Because if you're going to sell something, sell something for $2, and you're only going to get maybe 5 sell within a month, but you're going to sell for the same 2, and even $1.50, and you're going to get 15 sell within 2 weeks time, then you understand what I'm saying. So the government now should be looking forward now to put certain rules, legislations, whatever they have to, maybe waive the what they call it, Brand, when they come in and they have to pay. No, how would they slip me such
taxes, corporation tax,
right? The
taxes.
Oh Lord, I'm gonna get it. But you know, the government would probably want to waive certain fees and taxes to, you know, allow people to come in more freely, so to speak, if we are indeed at that point and we recognize that persons want to invest, they are invest. Even local investors are foreign investors. We have to be, you know, more flexible, you know, in terms of attracting persons, what we do, you know, how we do about it. Maybe it might just be for a particular period of time, and then
workers permit and those kind of things.
Yes, that's it. Work permits. Yeah. Such a simple everyday term, and it is yes. Work permits and stuff like that. So there are things. So the government now would have a part to play, and a major part, I dare say, you know, in terms of what's next, so to speak.
So Roger, the government on a regular basis seek to offer these kind of incentive for various businesses. I think going back to the situation that Naya is speaking about in terms of full employment, if there is a company or a business on the island who advertise a particular position, and they will put that advertisement in the newspaper for a few weeks and are unable to attract any takers for that particular and someone is brought in from overseas, the government from time to time do offer the waiver of the work permits because of that situation that
right. I understand that, Bram, but what we are looking at now is not maybe just a one-off or
no,
just
it's basically a policy,
but
yeah.
mass, so to speak.
So you guys think we're going to get it right this time, seeing that the World Bank have decided to get involved with the equation of sharing?
Naya, with all respect, I don't think that this needed any World Bank intervention. I think that it needed mutual respect and cordiality and understanding and fairness. That is just my personal opinion. And I think that if persons are honest with themselves and if persons are genuine as they say that they are, you sit and you discuss and you the World Bank intervention for me, perhaps was not not necessary. I feel that as two islands, one federation, and we are fully aware of what some of the challenges are. Sit and discuss and negotiate and come to a mutual agreement and understanding. You didn't really need anybody from the World Bank to come and tell you that X plus Y equal. But anyway, that is just my.
Sometimes, Mr. Brand, sometimes we have the answers and the solutions right here at our fingertips. But oftentimes, it appears as if that somebody have to come with it in a briefcase, and possibly somebody with a different pigmentation come with it in a bag for us to say yes, this it is, when we would have already know what it is right here. So having said that, let's hope that going forward this let me use the same term, fair share, would not just be banded about, but it would be indeed fair to not just nevis and divisions, but to sinkits and kittitions. Something that that is could be amicable, and the federation could continue to derive benefits.
Yes, because really and truly, I can see what Mr. Brand is saying. I can also see what you're saying. Sometimes we like it to come from somewhere else, but no specifics was really given, even though the word transparency is being used. And I think the next step is for the island administration to sit down with the labor administration in St. Kitts and maybe do what they are supposed to do, or what they had supposed to do even before the World Bank get involved, because they still got to talk about it and arrive at some, I don't know, it was not explained what the framework is, and as proposed by the World Bank or anything, but I get the impression, and that's why I can share the same thought with Mr. Brand, that it still have to be discussed, and a kind of manners and respect must be established between members of both administration and to live by their word, and live by their honesty, and live by their dignity, as it relates to the fair share, because it's been written before the Constitution said what they have said, and I can't imagine what framework is being laid down by the World Bank that was that necessary. And but I know the previous administration, the Unity administration, Prime Minister Harris was proposing something similar, And now it looks like the Labour government felt the same way, and so we see the report has come to has returned to the Federation, but we still have to sit down and discuss amongst ourselves what is what. But I do hope that some transparency really is practiced in that regard, because sometimes we tend to be getting hints, but the members of the public still not really getting a clear insight as to what is going on until it gets too bad and argument starts
and
relationship break down.
If I can use an analogy of maybe a cricket match. Sometimes right here in Nevis, well, over the years, not so much so now, but you would have a cricket match. Let's use my team, Easterns, and let's say All Stars. And we are short on umpires. So someone from maybe Easterns, while the team is batting, would go out and umpire. And the match might be a close one. And the umpire, the person who's umpiring from the Easterns team, may put up his finger to send the guy. And maybe in his honest opinion, the guy is out. But somebody may bawl or cry, cheat, it is not fair, it is unfair, just because of who did it. But had it been a neutral umpire, so to speak, somebody from overseas, maybe somebody from Antigua, and it was the very same situation, and that person were to raise the dreaded finger, then everybody might have just sat and say, boy, we should have batted better, he really out. But so I'm saying this to say, maybe now that the World Bank has stepped in, maybe we all would probably see it as being fair, whether it is fair or not.
But Roger, I hear you, and for me, I think that puts us in a situation where it is almost as if we are not willing to trust our own.
Well, if you look at the recent history,
yes, I think that while we speak about the advancement of our people and the capability of our people, and we are able to compete anywhere with anyone, and there continue to be these situations where the fairness in our systems, we are not so minded to and it could very well be a valid argument for the situation that you would have put forward. But I think that as a young nation, well, we are still young, as a developing nation, I think that we need to be able to get to that point where, and perhaps because of recent experiences and things that may have happened in the recent past, there is that level of mistrust in certain situations, and perhaps that is something that I think that we need to get a handle on, get over, and allow our people to zero in on trying to make some of these decisions to help build our country. I hear you, Roger, and it could very well be a valid argument, and it may very well be the position that some may have taken. But I think for me, it creates a level of mistrust in our own that I think that we need to be able to rise above if we truly want to see our country and our island develop.
But you see, Mr. Brand, you may see it that way, but some persons may see it another way.
No, I hear your argument, and I understand where you're coming from. Don't get me wrong.
I appreciate that, and I also appreciate what you would have said too. But this is what I am saying. Some persons would prefer for the World Bank or an outside entity to do the sharing, so to speak. So down the road, because some persons may think or may have think that their political careers might have very well be hinged on this, bearing in mind that it was bantered about on our sister island that St. Kitts and Nevis getting St. Kitts monies. No, we have to look at that and we have to look at it seriously.
It is serious.
If that is said a number of times, that falsehood could be misconstrued as truth. And if that is misconstrued as truth, and you on the government benches would have done the sharing, then you might be shaking in your boots the next time around, thinking that you may not get re-elected. Now, if this is done by an outside entity, you could always say, well, this is an established entity, the World Bank, the CDB, or what have you, and they are the expert with the expertise, you know, who would have done this particular sharing arrangement. And I believe, because we can count, we can multiply, we can divide, you know, the youngest amongst us, he's agreed with me, you know. Yeah, go ahead. So you know, we have to understand, you know, all aspects of it, you know, what one may be thinking at a particular point in time. You know, maybe they're not necessarily thinking, you know, what is really the best for the federation, but they may be thinking, you know, what is best for me, what is best for I going forward. And if we are to be thinking about what is best for me, what is best for I, especially if we are elected politicians, elected representatives who should be representing the masses, then we ought to be looking out for the masses and not ourselves. Sometimes we have to sideline ourselves for the benefit of the masses. And this has been done over the years. We can look at it. You know, Martin Luther King, you know, he was shot at, he was assassinated because he put himself out there for the masses, for the betterment of the people, so persons coming after could have a better life. So
look, we're two islands in one federation. We are one country.
Yes, we are.
But we sometimes find ourselves in competition with each other, not just in sports, but for economic benefit as well.
But even in our homes.
And such as, you know, such is the Constitution. It's like St. Kitts elected representative cares about St. Kitts people. Nevis elected representative supposed to care about Nevis people.
Why you say suppose?
Well, they're supposed to.
Yeah, but you say St. Kitts.
Well, St. Kitts one supposed to as well. I must qualify that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you know. Yeah. Well. Sorry about that. You know, they're supposed to. But and St. Kitts as well, because this played out in the last election. You remember when Harry said another dollar he sent to Nevis is one less for St. Kitts people.
Oh, you understand what I was saying?
And the Labour campaign was very smart in not to mention anything about no fair share at all, because they're dealing with the people, you know, and when the people have a certain feeling with them, they got to nurture that feeling and of course make them feel secure about what their intention or what they would like to see. And so it was smart on the Labour Party, smart. It was quite shrewd from the Labour Party point of view not to mention the issue of fair share at all in their campaign. because Harris was giving that impression that Nevis will get too much of Sinki's people money, you know what I mean? And so that was played out in the election in a big way, in a big way. And so the issue of fair share still remain, but then it's been, of course, well accommodated by the new government, and they find it necessary to involve the World Bank to come up with something to say that, well, they have imported some kind of ideas from some maybe more intelligent people, or from an institution of well-renowned reputation, and so the people might settle for that, really. But it's a struggle more with the people, you know, and not with even the politician, because the politician need to make the people feel happy and secure, because the people feel these people get all the money, then the politician them have to, you know, play the card right in that respect, you know, and at the same time to give the impression to the Nevis population and to the Nevis politicians that all is well, you know, and so it's a kind of ticklish situation.
But you see, that I think may very well go on, sadly, for a number of years to come. When we look back from since the early 80s, we recognize that politicians from St. Kitts, you know, would come over from time to time to align themselves, for want of a better term, or to form a coalition government. They recognize on St. Kitts that we recognize on St. Kitts that there are two major parties. Some may say three now.
It's three now.
But I'm not sure if three parties on St. Kitts are major. But there are three parties on St. Kitts that I know of. And there are 8 seats on St. Kitts. So it simply means that, and it takes 6 seats, 6 of the 11, because 3 is on Nevis, 6 of the 11 to be the majority in Parliament in order to form a government, as a federal government, that is. So we could see the dynamics, especially with a third party now. We could see the dynamics. One party can probably win even 5 on St. Kitts. Another party may win 3, a party may win 2, a party may win 1. And based on what's going on in St. Kitts, it doesn't appear as if that any 2 parties on St. Kitts would align themselves to form a government. It could happen. It has happened. The last unity government, PAM and PLP, along with the Concerned Citizens Movement here in Nevis. But as it is now, it doesn't appear as if that is going to happen anytime soon. So what I am saying, wait,
I don't want to stop you, but you're willing to put your neck on the chopping block with that statement, that it doesn't appear.
And those were my exact words.
Strange bedfellows.
Those were my exact words. You know, it's not my. I didn't use compulsory language.
Right.
You know, so you know, but in a sense, we understand. We see what happened. We see even 1993. You know what happened when it was 4-4. And we recognize that individuals came over, and as you say, strange bedfellows. We understood at the time, you know, how Nevis and Nevisians, you know, looked at Labour Party in St. Kitts back then, you know, and what was said or didn't said, and you know, but then so Nevision had looked at the Labour Party in not a very favourable light at all, and for the concerned citizens movement, for example, back then to align themselves with the Labour Party, it would have been political suicide for the concerned citizens movement. Bearing in mind that leading up to the 1992 campaign, that persons on the other party, the NRP, was basically saying that, you know, CCM is a branch of the Labour Party and Zengits. And Mr. Amrian is of blessed memory, and his team refuted that. So if they were now to go and align themselves with the Labour Party, we understand what would have happened. They would have probably, Brad would maybe not have been sitting where he's sitting now. you understand what I'm saying? So, you know, and then those persons who won the 4 seats, they even, you spoke to strange bedfellows, they even wanted to come as individuals and not under the banner of the Sinkits Nevis Labour Party. So when you speak of strange bedfellows, maybe you know what you speak of. You know?
Many politics bring strange bedfellows.
Listen, I think that in the short to medium term, we will see how the findings of the World Bank unfold. But I always say here at this microphone that the political organization that I am a part of and the government that I am a part of always at all times seek to put the best interests of the people of Nevis front and center. Sometimes in the past, persons may think that some of the decisions that were made by the political leaders of this party may not have been the best, and Roger alluded to one such decision. I think that at all time and at all point in our discourse and in our quote-unquote closed-door session, so to speak, that front and center is always what we think is in the best interest of the people of Nevis. In politics, you don't always get it right. Right? And there are times when, on reflection, you look back and you say, perhaps if we may have taken this decision, we may have had a different kind of outcome. But I think that when you take a decision, you must be willing and you must be prepared to defend that decision. And how we operate is always try to be what is best for the people of Nevis. And that is how I know that we would always seek to continue to operate. Sometimes things take longer than we would like, or we don't always get the kind of outcome that we would like, and that's just the nature of who would have thought that the Concerned Citizen Movement Party would have joined with another party or 2 other parties in Sinkits to form a government. It did not ended how we would have liked, but I believe that at the time we felt that was the best position for the people of Nevis. And but I think that at all times we recognize that whatever we do and however we do it, we always seek to ensure that we position and we look out for the people of Nevis. And that will always continue to be our mantra.
Yes, I understand what you're saying, Mr. Brand. When we look at it, you know, any politician would, I want to believe, first look out for his or her constituents, you know, foremost, because they are the ones who would have elected him or her to office in the first place. And then, of course, you know, the country, the island, you know, on a whole. Because when one is in government, one has to recognize that, you know, it's the government for all persons.
I have only one contribution to make at the end. That I listened to the debate once.
Yes.
And listened everything. And then said, I would like to cross-examine that information. So at some point in time, I would like an opportunity to cross-examine the information that you guys just dispensed.
You are the boss.
I'm serious.
I know.
I would like to cross-examination, the information, not the personnel per se, but the information that was just dispensed.
In particular.
Oh, everything. And there will be lots of time for it, because if anybody don't remember the arguments or the statements,
You'll be reminded.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Well, I think that just before we close, if you could just afford me an opportunity to hello to my friend in Guadeloupe. She's listening, Mrs. Ulysses. Just want to say a special good evening.
What was his name again?
Ulysses. That's a French name.
yeah, I know.
And she's listening in Guadeloupe.
Oh.
So I just want to say a good night. Bonsoir.
You heard him, Naya?
Yeah.
I said, what's his name? He said, she is listening in Guadeloupe. This guy is turning into a super heavyweight. We had to end with a light moment. This program repeats tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock. Or tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Map. Join Keith Scarborough on Thursday evening at 8 o'clock for Government at Work. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community. Thought that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
Views and opinions expressed on the preceding program are solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of News Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.